Hi, Sonia, Michael, and the rest of the team. I just wanted to make a quick video for a follow-up from my initial conversation with Michael yesterday. And I wanted to make it really easy for you guys to understand who I am, what I'm trying to accomplish, the reason I called you, and you can decide whether it makes sense for us to have an additional 20-minute conversation to look at more of the details of how this would actually work. But really quick, let me tell you about what I do. And I'm going to use your association as a backdrop just to try to keep it as relevant as possible. First thing I help companies understand is that although you have a million different moving pieces and conversations and tasks and everything else going on in your company, one of the ways of looking at leveraging and improving the company is by sitting back and looking at what are the conversations that really matter. The conversations where the outcomes directly affect the health and vitality of the association. So for example, an easy one is going to be a member renewal conversation. You know, if the outcome goes a certain way, obviously revenues happen or continue, and you have another member to leverage and work with. And in essence, that's a bump. You know, that's a very clear conversation that when it goes well, better things happen for the organization and vice versa. Another obvious one would be in the area of a new member acquisition in terms of those conversations. You know, the outcome of those really do determine whether more money and revenue comes in, more influence of membership comes in or not. And then a little bit less obvious, but also extremely important, maybe even strategically more important, are conversations around vendors and corporate sponsors, and the outcomes of those can directly impact, you know, funding and opportunities and strategic things. So there's a bunch of conversations, a small bunch that is, that really do matter. And it may take a little bit of time to identify the ones that are the most crucial. I just want to throw a couple on the table just so we have something to talk about. But once we have these critical conversations identified, then we're able to look at them and I'm able to ask you as a group or an individual, so how are we doing with those conversations? How effective are we? How consistent are we? And then the most difficult one of all is, and if you're to do it better, what would you do? What would that look like? And that's when things definitely get more difficult. But typically, if you're like most associations and companies, there's a feeling of, yeah, I've got good people and they're doing a decent job and they're getting some decent results. But of course, you know, there's always an opportunity to do better. You know, obviously sometimes things are a little bit more drastic and there's more real urgent concern around those levels of effectiveness. But I want to guess in your situation, it's not bad. But if you could do it better, if there could be a more consistent, favorable outcomes, you know, especially in these, if we're just honing in on these really critical conversations, even incremental bumps, you know, can have a direct impact on the company in a good way. So when we look at taking these conversations and becoming and looking at it from a standpoint of like mastery and saying, wow, we really want to do these better. I think step one is already going in the right direction because you'd be focusing your time on some very leveraged moments and events inside the organization. But when we look at being able to improve ourselves, now you're stepping into a realm that I excel in and that you can't find other people that do this. You may see a sales course or something, but it's not even really apropos to most of what you guys are dealing with. So this next step of how I work with organizations is I superimpose those crucial conversations, I superimpose my active influence program. And all I need to demonstrate a real bump in levels of effectiveness is 4 hours over 4 weeks, and I can change the culture of your organization. And not because I'm going to assert my will, you know, on the organization, but because of the years of experience and what I've done, I'm able to put a model in front of the overall group that everybody looks at and goes, that's a better way. That's I get this. I can be more consistent. I have more of an approach, a strategy that I can reuse and build upon over a period of time. And that model will allow us to gain agreement. Here's a more effective way of doing it, and that we can work on. And so we can literally measure our improvement. And one of the things I do is I measure what we're doing before the training, and then we measure it after the training, and we make sure that, yeah, we're actually becoming better at these most important conversations that your organization is having day in, or at least week in and week out. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts. Give me 4 weeks with your people. Give me 4 hours, total time, an hour a week. Then of course I'm going to have some smart things to be done inside, in between those training sessions, but it doesn't have to take people away from the front lines. It doesn't have to be a distraction, and it really can help everybody come together and have a plan for how do we become even more effective at these crucial conversations. So that's kind of the intro. There's more to it, because I think that not only will your organization be able to obtain demonstrable and meaningful results, but I think there's something in here for the members also, in terms of when we look at how they can improve in their conversations, which I think is an opportunity for the association. But one step at a time. Wanted to first talk about your group and see if there's a fit there. And if you'd like to hear a little bit more about it and some more of the details, great. Feel free to reach out to me. I feel like I've done what I can to try to make it as easy as possible. And the next step is yours. If you feel like it's in your best interest to better understand what this would look like and how we could do this in a way that would make sense for everybody, please feel free to reach out and contact me. Otherwise, I can know that I tried. But I truly hope we have an opportunity to work together. Thank you.